Today, June 15th, 2022, I, Ray Dawson, being 51 years of age, actually used high school algebra in a work environment. And I'll show you how on today's Unnamed Real Estate Podcast. And you know, the thing about it is, I'm actually relatively shocked myself. Algebra, it's a standing joke. You never really have to use it. But not only did I use it, actually sort of created the equation in my head and everything like that. And I was really impressed with myself. Anyways, my name is Charles Ray Dawson. I'm the Associate Broker and Residential Sales Manager for ProStar Realty. This is the Unnamed Real Estate Podcast, Episode 72. And this is June 15th, like I said on the teaser, and the whole world's blowing up right now. I made a joke on Facebook that today's the kind of day that I actually start calling up lenders and making sure they're not on the ledge or anything like that and try to walk them back because today, the Fed came in and pretty anticipated, all right? And that's important to know. Rate hike. Everybody knew that the Fed was meeting today, and they raised the prime lending rate by 0.75, and that has shaken a lot of people up today. But the markets were anticipating it, and it was really funny because you wake up Monday morning and you see an article on there saying, you know, if the Fed really wants to have an impact, they should raise rates instead of just a half, 0.5, they should go to 7.5. And pretty much by the end of the day, that article was, you know, that editorial that, you know, just somebody tweeting into the cosmos, hey, they should go to 7.5, had been picked up by all the major news sources and stuff. And so everybody was starting to talk 7.5. And of course, this has effects like instantaneously on the interest rates and everything. So we started seeing interest rates going up. And then some guy yesterday on Tuesday started talking about, well, if they really want to fight inflation, because, hey, guess what, guys, inflation's here, they're going to have to go up at least a full point. And people started talking about that. And then I think they actually found the guy who said, let's go up a full point, dragged him out in the parking lot, and beat him to death. Because by the end of the day, yesterday, it was like, yeah, they're not going to go up to 1, but they'll probably do 7.5. And it's fascinating how today, sure enough, here comes the Fed, and they go 7.5. So I'm not sure if the Fed sort of leaked, or somebody working for the Fed sort of leaked the fact that they're going to go 7.5 instead of the 5 that everybody had been anticipating, just to take the edge off or make sure people were ready for it and wouldn't shock the market too much. Or if they just looked at it and went, you know, that is a really good idea, because they are really seriously trying to fight inflation right now. You know, a couple months late, maybe a year late, depending on who you are and, you know, what your theories on these things are. And they only got one tool in the toolbox, right? And it's money on, money off. And they control money on and money off by increasing or decreasing that lending rate. And so since they only have the one button, they can signal by how much they crank the button, how much they turn the knob to money on, money off. And that theoretically downstream will have an effect on inflation, because inflation is caused by, according to some theorists, right? Remember, they call economics the dismal science for a reason, that inflation is caused by too much money chasing too few goods and services. So by raising the interest rates, less people are borrowing money and less people are spending money that they borrow. So hopefully that will tamp down inflation. But that's the stick. Okay. That's like the one note they have to play on that flute, and they're going to blur it for all it's worth. So yeah, interest rates have gone up at least a point for borrowers who want to buy houses, this week. 6s are all over the place right now. Once again, beginning of this year, I knew we were going to go up. All right. I said we'll probably be in the 4s somewhere. All right. We've blown well past that. 7.7 being the historical average for the last 50 years. So we're still under the historical average, but this is going to have an effect downstream. And you can see it on the market right now. So other things that are going on is that market seems to be slowing because less buyers are qualifying for less houses. All right. And less people are getting into the market since our rental, remember the last couple months I've been seeing how rent rates have seemed to capped out, and we actually did hit that little point where I think it was about in March or so, maybe April, I started saying, hey, at certain price points it is now cheaper to rent than to buy. Right? And that has a decrease, that has effect on demand. And so we started seeing demand start level off when they hit that little magic number and whatnot. But everybody else is starting to pick up on this thing. And so builder confidence has been reported, been down. It's dropped 2 points. Builders are starting to look at this, and we're going into a recession, we're going into a downturn. Maybe we won't get so leaning forward on our new housing projects because they all got burned back in the crash of '08 and everything. So they're really leery of having too many houses starting to build without enough buyers to build them or buy them after they build them. And then with the builder confidence starting to slow up, we're starting to see just across the board, everybody's starting to come back and take that. Oh, here we go. Now, every article I've read over the last 3 days about this spends half the article explaining what happened, and then the other half of the article explaining why this is not the crash. All right, that crash that people have been waiting for, right? And I still agree with them, right? This is not the crash. This is a correction, all right, driven by a recession, driven by high inflation. All right. What do we mean by a correction right now? It means that your house has been going up 22, 24% a year for the last 3 years is now going to start going up at interest or inflation rate plus, which is even in a balanced market with an equal number of buyers and sellers at the same time, housing still goes up at least inflation. All right, which is at 8 and change right now. Some people are arguing it's in the 10s. All right, so you can still always look for at least that kind of appreciation going on. But with the market contracting, things are starting to slow up. As more property starts coming onto the market, and we'll get to the numbers here in a second, you're going to start seeing some really great headlines. One of which is sort of kind of tickles me. Let me pull this one up here real quick. What we're going to do is we're going to go to this. Let me show you something. Do layoffs as Compass and Redfin signal a looming real estate purge? This is on Inman. This is a real estate news site that I subscribe to. And the couple of the big names, all right, Compass and Redfin, these guys are really well known in the real estate industry. They have different business models than your traditional brick and mortar brokerage. They're actually starting to do layoffs. Now, we've been talking about layoffs on the lender side for forever and a day. So these people are just anticipating the fact that maybe their business model that they've been working on is not going to work in the upcoming market, the market that we're in now. All right. Remember, we've been very, very used to being in a seller's market, like a hot seller's market. All right. If you listen to Tina Tamber, she actually uses the term insanity. All right. Insanity is above frenzy, and a frenzy is above hot. All right. And now we're just backing off. So these guys have built these business models in the environment that we've had for the last 3 years. And now, well, guess what? To steal one of my favorite, I almost said one of my favorite television shows, but then I remembered the last season, a television show called Game of Thrones. Winter is coming. And yeah, sure enough, winter is indeed here. Are these sweet summer children going to be able to survive the change? We'll see. All right. But this happening right here and everything, followed up with the lenders letting go of their people. And that's mostly on the refi market. All right. People don't want to refi out of their nice cushy 2s and 3s into a 5 or a 6. All right. They might be getting a HELOC if they need to do home repairs or anything like that, but they're definitely not going to refi their entire property line or their entire mortgage. All right. So, we're seeing all these other large real estate companies. Remember, not the mom and pop traditional brokerage concept. These are publicly traded huge organizations with a huge overhead. It's not like you have the office manager slash transaction coordinator slash secretary slash receptionist, sitting up at the front of the house. They got transaction coordinators, and they got these people, and you got property management. They got all of this overhead over the top of their companies, and these people get to get paid because real estate agents are doing deals. If you don't have as many real estate agents doing deals, now you can't afford that all that overhead. So this is what Compass and Redfin are starting to look into, and it's a thing. All right, I've always been a little suspicious about the long-term viability of some of these guys' business models, especially the ones who are starting to do the 2 or 3 other features. I talked to this guy the other day he's got a real estate office. He's trying to add a lender, a contractor, an escrow company, a home inspector, and an appraiser. All right. He wants the original one call gets it all business model. And in his business model, the real estate agents are pretty much just there to bring in people into this huge pipeline, and he can make money at every step of the process. Right? How does that work in a normal traditional market? Don't know. I guess we're going to find out. I might need to give him a call and see if he's ready to come over to ProStar here. So, and some of these other organizations, stuff like that, especially all these big nationwide brokerages. A lot of them have internal lenders or lender partnerships and stuff, and maybe those lender partnerships, a lot of part of their departmental revenue was based on refis, HELOCs, that kind of stuff, and now they're going to be in a world of hurt. So keep an eye on the space. This one's going to be a lot of fun. So, and that's pretty much the news. Let's touch on the fact, pull up the numbers real quick and have a conversation about that, because, all right, this is June 15th, 2022. This is what it looked like at 9 o'clock this morning. Actives this week are 11,317, up 990 from last week. That's the biggest week growth since I've started tracking this back in March of 2020. And this is the highest amount of property inventory we've had since June, the first week of June 2020. New listings this week were 3,039, up 2. Our pendings this week are 1,598, down 49. Under contracts looking for backups is 971, down 35. Contracts with a buyer contingency on sale is at 106, down 16. Closings this week were 1,726, and coming soon to an MLS near you is 1,122. And down on the bottom left, you can see that our demand has dropped down to 92.5, where it was a 94. Remember, we don't consider it a slow market for demand side until we see that number hit 90. All right. Now that number right there is not generated based on the impacts of the last 2 days. So watch that right now, because if next week we actually see an 8 in front of that number, I would not be surprised with the latest 1 point in interest rate jump of the last 2 days. Demand or supply is up to 40.6. All right, that's still clicking up. It was like 39 last week, I want to say. And so we see supply still coming on. Now, just remember, even with 11,317, the most houses we've seen since June, all right, of 2020, that's still about 60% lower than what it needs to be. Right? We still don't have enough houses, as many houses out there as we should have on the market, based on our population alone. And demand, although it is softening, is still at that point where we're not actually saying we are no longer, having normal demand. We would, when that hits below 90, then we'll start saying, okay, now we have below normal demand. All right, so that might be next week. All right, let's keep an eye out for that. Take 3. And the reason why I say that is because I just in my post process and everything like that, as I'm going through and I'm reviewing what I recorded, I realized I just didn't like it. I was trying to describe a very intense, not really intense. It's just one of those. It's a complicated subject. I just taught a class to my real estate agents on this on Monday about how to do a CMA, a comparative market analysis, for a listing presentation, and it took me at least an hour there, and I was dealing with real estate agents that knew the terms that I was using. And I tried to duplicate it in the video, and I'm like watching it back and like, okay, yeah, this is not the Ray standard. So we're going to cover that next week. There is a company out there who is big in our industry right now. They have a very, very, by Maricopa standards, by Phoenix real estate standards, a very, very poor success rate. All right. And yet they are one of the biggest companies in town. And two things popped up in the news about this particular company. One is that they are actually taking their show on the road nationally and partnering with a major national brokerage. And that's the first one. And bit of news that popped these guys up. And the second bit of news that popped these guys up is I was working a CMA for a property. And when I was looking for comps in the neighborhood for this property, I realized that there were two properties that I was looking at that were very underpriced for the neighborhood. I mean, these houses sold and closed, but they closed substantially less than the comparable properties around it. And that threw up a little flag. So as I'm looking through the listings and I'm looking at these properties, I realized they just weren't marketed. They weren't marketed properly. They weren't priced from the beginning properly. And in my mind, I'm sort of sitting there going, okay, how does this happen? And I realized when you have this company and their entire marketing campaign is basically, we will get your house sold very fast with very little, inconvenience to you. I'm starting to see that mechanism going on. So many years ago, and when I say many, I say about two, when wholesalers were all over the place. These are the people who are going to knock on your door and they're going to try to get your house and buy your house from you at under market value and then turn around and sell it to somebody else, right? Pretty much the same day, all right? And Weasel of the Week, I covered this thing, a year ago. I think it's episode 2, might be episode 1. I really should have continued that up. Anyways, so I'm looking at almost the same dynamic done, except it's a brokerage now that's doing it. I'm not going to name the brokerage. These guys have a hell of a social media campaign or presence, and apparently they will. You make a little comment on about them, they're suddenly there. They just like pop up like a Death Eater or something like that. It's ridiculous. So, but watching, looking at this business model and how the new thing that they're promoting out there about being able to basically just walk in your house with an offer already. And then if you don't like this offer, we can put it on a listing. I'm seeing the same flags go up, right? Back when wholesalers were really, really screwing people over, I used to say, I wish everybody in the world would go to Zillow and look up their Zillow estimate on their property, all right, and have a number in the head what their house might be worth. And the reason for that is because of these people who are coming in and basically buying houses from little old ladies, because little old ladies don't know what the value of their house is, right? If the little old lady had a Zillow estimate in their head, at least they would realize when the guy came in offering them pennies on the dollar that they were getting ripped off, hopefully. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to come up with a class and do a video teaching you guys how to do your own CMA on your house, right? How to actually sit there and price out your own house the way we real estate agents do. Right? And I just taught this class earlier on Monday to my agents, and my agents know what I'm talking about, right? They knew the terminology, and I realized that if I'm going to talk to you, the civilian populace out there, I'm going to have to go a little bit simpler and a little bit broader. Right? And that's something I'm going to need to do some homework on, get some notes going, get some graphics going, and hopefully we can really knock that out. So that's the reason why this video is suddenly going to get really short, because I just dumped everything that I tried to do, and we're going to do it all over again. So watch for the jump, because now we're going to go into the last part, right, where I do the wrap up. We're going to call it a day. Thank you very much, guys, for tuning in and everything like that. Please like, share, subscribe, hit the little bell for the bell notifications. I don't actually know what that means, but all the YouTube channels that I follow, they're always saying that. So please do whatever it is I just told you. Especially follow the link below. Go to my Facebook page. Like my Facebook page. I get a lot more content goes out on that thing. And you would actually get another notification, not just through YouTube, but through Facebook when I post these things on every Thursday at 5 o'clock. Watch your kids around the water. We had a teenager get pulled out of a swimming pool this week. All right, so it's not just watch the toddlers, it's watch everybody. Watch your drunk cousin Joey, all right, when he's playing around in the pool. Watch your drunk friend Ray when he's playing around in the pool. I'm talking to you, Russ and Rebecca. You invited me over, you accepted responsibility for me, all right? And of course your pets. Thank you very much. Work your circles. You guys have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you guys later.